custom made and guaranteed.
Hey there LEGO Legends, welcome back to another episode of How Did You Build That? I've come here to reflect on the brand new season of LEGO Masters that's just hit our screens at Season 4 now. There's already been some amazing builds in this first episode. So I've decided to actually focus in on some of the cool builds that we're seeing on our screens right now. So I'm actually hoping to talk to some of the contestants on Season 4, but for now I'm just going to focus on some of the really cool techniques that have sort of caught my interest as I've been watching, and it has actually made me question, how did they build that? So if you couldn't guess already, today's focus is actually going to be on Joss and Henry's fantastic sea serpent. Now, the reason that I was most interested in this one is because they had a fantastic use of this incredibly flexible building tool called FlexTube. Now, the first thing that surprised me about this is I can't believe how much they found in the brick pit. They must have done a full restock, because I tell you what, whenever I was looking for it last year, it wasn't so readily available, and particularly those new dark red ones they had for the Whiskers. Anyway, the really cool thing about the FlexTube is that it basically allows you to move absolutely away from being on stud. They've obviously had to anchor it to the Lego, but beyond that, it gives them the ability to put studs any which way they wanted to. The way that they've actually done this build, and I'm going to focus in firstly on how to make it solid, is that they've done a Technic subframe. Now, this is not exactly the same, but it's pretty similar to what they've done. And they anchored using Technic bricks, and then they've got some beams coming out from those bricks that then goes onto this frame. They did actually use some Technic bricks in the middle that they skin some body and attach some of the body to. But then it's gone into just these Technic beams that really all it's doing is adding some support to hold up the heavy head that they ended up adding at the end. There is a fair bit of weight on that, so it does need that strength of that Technic frame. Now, what they've done then is they've added this really cool technique to the outside of it. Now, this technique is achieved by simply threading Technic bricks onto FlexTube. Now, they could just use the Technic bricks that have the holes in it, but the problem with that is that it will just slide around, and there's no way of actually fixing a position for that. But with the Technic bricks, the ones with a little crisscross in them that actually hold the axles, they can be threaded through, and they actually add friction. So they will stay exactly where you want them. Now, the thing with this is that they can actually put them right next to each other. They can put them a millimeter or two away from each other, or they can still keep them relatively on stud. But with this, they've been able to then flex this and create that beautiful splayed effect. Now, the one thing that is really cool with this too is that they can even rotate those bricks to create a bit of a curvature too. So I'm incredibly impressed with this technique, and I cannot personally wait to see some more from these guys. One of the other cool things that I thought was great about the way they used this technique is that they had it following the tube from the back of the frame through the rest of the body, because of course, because it was being submerged in water, they actually did need to anchor this down as much as they possibly could. I was actually still a little bit surprised at how much they didn't anchor. I was really concerned that as they put the water in, that it might have fallen apart a little bit, or worse still, fallen apart as the water was brought back down again. Now, the other cool thing that I love the way that they used the rod is in the mouth. They've done a piece of FlexTube, and they've put on these cool little robot leg around a piece of very bent FlexTube, and then put in the little horns. There's a mixture of the short horns, the bull horns, and I saw on the lower jaw they actually did put in some of the bigger fang type horns. The other cool thing that they added was the eyes, and I'm pretty sure they produced this by simply using one of the little claws, some people like to call them spanners, clipped onto the bar, followed by this little round 2x2 tile with a little stud hole, and then finished off with the 2x2 translucent with the studs on it but the curved bottom. It looks very much like a spooky eye that you might see on a creature deep down in the ocean. An unbelievable first episode, some fantastic builds there. I cannot wait to see the rest of the series, and I really hope that there's a technique in every single one of these episodes that I can actually pull apart, because I'm sure there's going to be people watching and asking the question, how did they build that? Anyway, thanks for tuning in to another episode of How Did You Build That? And make sure you subscribe, and I'll be putting up some more content soon.